What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected actors walks onto a late-night set, expecting an easy chat, only to be blindsided by a host with an agenda? What happens when the charm and wit of a talk show turns sharp, when small talk becomes cross-examination? What happens when Tom Hardy, the man known for his raw honesty and quiet intensity, finally decides he's done playing nice? This is the story of the night Tom Hardy walked off The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, but not before revealing what really hides behind the smiles and studio laughter of America's most beloved late-night host. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts below, because what unfolded that night had fans and producers stunned in equal measure. The crowd at New York's Ed Sullivan Theater buzzed with energy. Tom Hardy was there to promote his new film, a brutal, emotional crime drama already generating awards talk. Fans had lined up for hours, hoping to catch a glimpse of the British actor who'd mesmerized audiences in Mad Max, Fury Road, Venom, and The Dark Knight Rises. When Hardy walked out under the bright lights, the applause was deafening. He smiled, shy, genuine, and waved before taking his seat across from Colbert. For the first few minutes, everything felt routine. "Tom Hardy, welcome to the show," Colbert said, his voice warm but rehearsed, that familiar grin in place. "Thanks for having me, mate," Tom replied, settling into the chair with his usual grounded composure. Colbert leaned back, shuffling his cards. "So you've got this new film out. A pretty intense one, from what I hear. But before we get into that," he paused, his tone changing slightly. "There's been talk about your avoidance of politics. You seem to stay completely silent about current issues. Don't you think in today's world that's a little irresponsible?" The question hit like a crack across glass. The audience, caught off guard, quieted instantly. Hardy blinked once, then gave a measured smile. "Well, Stephen," he said slowly, "I'm an actor. My job is to tell stories, not to lecture people on how to vote. Everyone's got their own views, and I respect that." "Sure," Colbert said, nodding, but there was no agreement in his tone. "But you do have a massive platform. Millions of people watch your films. Doesn't that give you some responsibility to speak up? Or are you just comfortable staying in your bubble?" A subtle gasp rippled through the audience. The question wasn't playful. It was pointed. Hardy's expression shifted. "I'm not sure how choosing not to grandstand is living in a bubble," he said evenly. "I do my part quietly, working with veterans, helping the homeless. I just don't think shouting my opinions on TV helps anyone." "Interesting," Colbert said flatly, the word dripping with condescension. "So you're taking the safe route, the commercial route. Don't upset anyone, don't lose ticket sales. That it?" Tom tilted his head, his calm beginning to crack. "That's not what I said. I'm saying actors shouldn't be expected to play politicians. That's not our job." Right, Colbert smirked. "Just entertain us, don't make us think." The laugh that followed sounded hollow. The tension was palpable now. No one in the audience seemed sure whether to clap or stay silent. Colbert pounced again. "Although your new film, pretty violent, yeah? Lots of guns, lots of blood. Don't you worry that putting something like that out right now, with everything going on in the world, sends the wrong message?" Tom's jaw tightened. "It's a film, Stephen. It's fiction. It's about the cost of violence, not glorifying it. If you'd actually watched it properly, you'd see it's about how destruction consumes the people who choose it." "I did watch it," Colbert interrupted, his tone sharpening. "And what I saw was 2 hours of stylized chaos. Gunfights, blood, explosions. It felt like you were glamorizing the very thing you claim to condemn. But hey," he added with a smirk, "it looks great, right? Beautifully shot violence." Tom leaned forward now, the patience gone from his face. "You're missing the point entirely. The character loses everything, his family, his integrity, his soul. The violence isn't there to thrill people. It's to show what it costs." "Sure," Colbert said, smirking again. but it's shot like an action trailer. Slow motion, dramatic lighting, heroic music. Maybe people aren't going to see it the way you want them to." For a long moment, Hardy said nothing. The silence hung heavy, almost electric. The audience could sense the shift. This wasn't banter anymore. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, colder. "Maybe that says more about how you see things than how I made them." The room went still. Colbert froze mid-smile, his trademark charm faltering. The producers shifted nervously behind the cameras. It was clear. Tom Hardy wasn't there to play along anymore. "Come on, Tom." "You can't tell me that wasn't meant to look appealing," Colbert said, the smirk returning to his face. Tom exhaled slowly. "Art can be beautiful and tragic at the same time," he replied, his tone tightening. "Just because something's crafted with care doesn't mean it's glorifying what it depicts. That's filmmaking 101, mate." "Mate," Colbert repeated, dragging out the word in a mock British accent. "Love the whole tough Brit thing. Very charming." He leaned forward. "Tell me, don't you ever get tired of playing the same brooding, violent archetype? The tough guy? Ever think about playing someone I don't know, more evolved?" The room froze. The audience didn't laugh. This wasn't entertainment anymore. It was a confrontation. Tom's eyes hardened. "I've played plenty of roles," he said quietly. Vulnerable men. Complicated men. Characters wrestling with fear, love, and loss. Maybe if you'd done your research, you'd know that. "Oh, I did my research," Colbert replied smugly, shuffling the cue cards on his desk. "In fact, I've got a list right here. Seems like you've walked out of a few interviews before, haven't you? Kind of a pattern, isn't it? You get defensive whenever someone asks a tough question. Is that what's happening now, Tom? Are my questions too hard for you?" Hardy stared at him for several seconds, the muscles in his jaw flexing. "What exactly is this, Stephen?" he asked finally. "I came here to talk about a film, to have a conversation, but this feels like an interrogation. What's your angle here?" "My angle?" Colbert said, widening his eyes with mock innocence. "No angle, mate. I'm just doing my job, asking questions. Isn't that what journalists do? Or do you only enjoy interviews when people toss you compliments?" "There's a difference," Tom said evenly, "between asking real questions and being deliberately antagonistic. You're not interested in a dialogue. You're trying to create a moment. You want me to snap so you can get your viral clip?" "Wow, that's quite an accusation," Colbert said theatrically, turning to the crowd. "Did everyone hear that? I'm being accused of trying to make content for my television show. Guilty as charged, I guess." A few uneasy chuckles rippled through the audience, but it wasn't the usual laughter. It was nervous. "You're twisting my words," Tom said, his voice rising slightly now. "I'm saying you're being disrespectful. You invited me here, and instead of talking about the work, you're baiting me." "Baiting you?" Colbert leaned forward, his expression hard. "Tom, you're a big boy. You can handle a few questions. Or maybe you can't. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe behind all that macho posturing, you're actually a bit fragile." "Fragile," Tom repeated, disbelief flashing across his face. "You don't know a damn thing about me." "I know you don't like being challenged," Colbert shot back. "I know you walk out when you're uncomfortable. I know you hide behind that working-class hero act while living in mansions and cashing millions." "That's enough," Tom said suddenly, pushing his chair back and standing. "I'm not doing this." "Oh, here we go," Colbert said, gesturing theatrically to the audience. "Right on cue, the walkout." "How authentic of you, Tom." Tom pointed directly at him. "You're a bully, Stephen. You sit behind that desk with your writers and your audience, and you use your platform to humiliate people. This isn't journalism. It's not even comedy. It's cruelty dressed up as entertainment." "Sit down, Tom," Colbert said coldly. "You're embarrassing yourself." "No," Tom snapped, his voice sharp as steel. "You're embarrassing yourself." He leaned forward slightly, his words cutting like a knife. "What happened to you, Stephen? You used to care about the craft. About real conversations. Now you just tear people down for applause. The studio was dead silent. The cameras kept rolling, but for once, even Colbert didn't have a comeback. "Now you're just another hack," Tom said, his voice steady but razor-sharp. Another man hiding behind a desk, scoring cheap points by tearing people down. The audience gasped. "Get him out of here," Stephen snapped to someone off stage, his composure cracking. "We're done. Get him off my stage." Security began to step forward, but Tom raised a hand, calm but resolute. "Don't bother. I'm leaving." He glanced toward the cameras, addressing the millions watching at home. This is what happens when you don't play their game. When you don't bow down and kiss the ring, they turn on you. They try to humiliate you. "You need to leave now," Stephen said, rising from behind his desk. "This is my show, and I'm telling you to get out." "Gladly," Tom replied, ripping off his microphone and tossing it onto the chair. He began walking toward the edge of the stage when Stephen's voice cut through the tense silence. "At least I'm not a coward," Stephen called out, his voice echoing through the theater. Tom stopped, dead. Slowly, he turned. The look in his eyes made every person in the audience freeze. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice low, almost too calm. "You heard me," Stephen said, stepping out from behind his desk, his tone mocking. "You talk about being real, about authenticity, but the second someone challenges you, the moment someone doesn't worship at the altar of Tom Hardy, you run. That's cowardice." Tom walked back toward the desk, every step deliberate, the tension in the room thick enough to cut. "You want to call me a coward?" he said softly, dangerously. "You sit here, night after night, in your safe little studio, surrounded by people who clap when you tell them to. You hide behind a network, behind lawyers, behind applause, and you have the audacity to question my courage? I'm not the one running," Stephen said, folding his arms. "I'm standing right here." "No," Tom shot back, his tone darkening. "You're standing behind corporate armor. You don't stand for anything but your own ego. This fake moral act you perform, it's pathetic." "Oh, that's rich," Stephen sneered. "Says the guy who won't even state a political opinion. You're spineless, Tom. You care more about protecting your brand than standing for something that matters." Tom's jaw clenched. "I take stands every day," he said, his voice rising. "I just don't broadcast them on television for applause. I don't need validation from strangers to know I'm doing the right thing. But you feed off it. You need the crowd, the cameras, the approval. Without it, you're nothing." The theater was deathly still now. Some people looked uneasy. Others were leaning forward, unable to look away. "You don't know me," Stephen said, but his voice had lost its confidence. It sounded defensive now. "I know exactly who you are," Tom said. "You're every insecure bully I've ever met. You punch down and call it comedy. You humiliate people and call it journalism. You hide behind satire so you never have to take responsibility for the damage you do." Stephen laughed, but the sound was hollow. "Damage? You're a millionaire movie star, Tom. What damage could I possibly do to you?" "It's not about me," Tom said firmly. "It's about every guest who walks on this stage thinking they're here for a real conversation, only to realize they've stepped into an ambush. It's about the people watching, who learn from you that cruelty is acceptable as long as it gets a laugh. That humiliation equals entertainment," Stephen smirked. "That's funny, coming from the guy who makes violent movies for a living." Tom shook his head slowly. "And there it is, deflection. When you can't defend yourself, you attack. You twist the narrative. It's transparent, Stephen. Everyone can see it." Stephen spread his arms toward the audience. "Really? Because from where I'm standing, the audience seems to be on my side." Tom turned to the crowd. His voice softened, but it carried across the room. "Are they? Or are they just uncomfortable? Too afraid to break the silence?" He scanned the faces staring back at him. "Look at them, Stephen. Really look. They're not laughing. They're not clapping. They're watching, because deep down, they know what this is. The audience remained frozen, caught between fascination and disbelief, as the tension on stage reached its breaking point. "They're not cheering," Tom said, his voice calm but cutting. "They're watching you bully someone, and they're wondering if this is who you really are." The words landed like a gut punch. The audience shifted uneasily. Some crossed their arms, others looked down at the floor. Tom hadn't just hit a nerve with Stephen. He'd hit one with everyone in the room. "You need to leave," Stephen said again, but the force was gone from his voice. "I will," Tom replied, taking a step closer. "But first tell me why. Why bring me here just to attack me? What did I ever do to you?" "You didn't do anything," Stephen said, and for the briefest moment, his mask slipped. "That's the problem. You just get to exist in this little bubble where nothing touches you. You don't have to take sides. You don't risk anything. Some of us actually care about what's happening in the world." "So this was punishment then?" Tom asked. "You decided I needed to be taught a lesson. Who made you the teacher, Stephen? Who gave you that authority?" "I have a platform," Stephen said defensively. "I have a responsibility to use it." "To humiliate people?" Tom shot back. "That's what you think responsibility looks like?" "I think this show should hold people accountable," Stephen snapped. "Accountable for what?" Tom demanded, his voice echoing across the stage. "For not sharing your opinions? For not performing the way you want? For being human instead of your puppet? For being part of the problem?" Stephen fired back, his voice rising now. "For sitting on the sidelines while the world burns. For making millions and contributing nothing meaningful to society." Tom's expression hardened. "You have no idea what I contribute," he said, his voice low but seething. "You don't know how I spend my time, my money, my energy. But because I don't broadcast it for clicks, you've decided it doesn't count. That's not journalism, Stephen. That's judgment, and you're not qualified to judge me." "I'm not the only one judging you," Stephen said bitterly. "Everyone watching is judging you right now," Tom nodded. "Let them. I'd rather be judged for being authentic than praised for being a performing seal. You want me to dance for you, to say the right things, to check your boxes so you can feel morally superior? I won't do it. I refuse to play that game." "Then you don't belong on this show," Stephen said flatly. Tom smiled, a small, knowing smile. "Finally, something we agree on. I don't belong here. No one with any self-respect belongs here. This isn't a talk show anymore, Stephen. It's a tribunal, and you're the judge, jury, and executioner." "Get out," Stephen barked, his face red. "Get out of my theater!" Tom laughed, quietly, bitterly. "Your theater? This place existed long before you, and it'll be here long after you're gone. You're just borrowing it, mate." "Don't forget that." "Security," Stephen yelled. 2 guards emerged from the wings, hesitant, unsure. "Don't touch me," Tom said firmly, raising a hand. "I'm leaving. I'm walking out of here on my terms, not yours." As he turned to go, Stephen muttered under his breath, just loud enough for the microphones to catch it. Running away again, Tom stopped mid-step. He turned back, his eyes heavy with something that wasn't anger this time, but pity. "You really don't get it, do you?" he said quietly. "Walking away from toxicity isn't running. It's self-preservation." The silence that followed was absolute. The cameras stayed fixed as Tom Hardy stepped off stage, leaving behind a shaken audience, a furious host, and a moment that would go down in television history. "It's knowing your worth," Tom said, his tone steady but resolute. "It's refusing to let someone else's bitterness become your burden. I actually feel sorry for you, Stephen, because one day you're going to wake up and realize that all this anger, all this venom, it's not changing the world. It's just consuming you." "Save your psychoanalysis for your therapist," Stephen shot back, though his voice cracked slightly. betraying the loss of control. I don't need a therapist to see what's happening here, Tom replied calmly. You're miserable, and you want everyone else to be miserable with you. You can't stand people who don't play by your rules, people who don't need your validation. It threatens you, doesn't it? Stephen sneered. You think you're at peace? You think walking out of here makes you some kind of hero? I'm no hero, Tom said. I'm just a man who knows when enough is enough. And this, he gestured around the room, this right here is enough. He turned and began walking toward the edge of the stage. This time, Stephen didn't stop him. But just as Tom reached the stairs, a producer in a dark suit hurried out from the wings, hands raised in a panic. Wait, Tom, wait! Let's everyone just calm down for a second. I am calm, Tom said, not breaking stride. Please, the producer urged, stepping between him and the exit. We can work this out. This is all just a misunderstanding. Tom stopped, eyes narrowing. A misunderstanding? He repeated. Did you not just watch what happened? Your host ambushed me the moment I sat down. Stephen was just doing his job, the producer said nervously, glancing toward the still-rolling cameras. Sometimes interviews get heated. That's what makes good television. Good television, Tom echoed, his voice rising. You mean ambushing guests and humiliating them for ratings? Nobody's trying to humiliate anyone, the producer stammered. We're all professionals here. Let's just take 5, cool off, and start fresh. Start fresh? Tom laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think I'm going to sit back down and pretend the last 15 minutes didn't happen? Stephen spoke up from behind his desk, his tone dripping with false calm. See? This is what I'm talking about. You can't handle criticism, Tom. You're proving my point right now. My point, Tom said, turning back to face him, is that you confuse disrespect with journalism. You weren't asking questions. You were making statements dressed up as questions. Everything you said was designed to paint me as the villain. That's not an interview, Stephen. That's a hit piece. You're being paranoid, Stephen said quickly. Am I? Tom asked, stepping closer. Then answer me this. Did you plan this? Did you and your writers sit around before the show, deciding how you were going to come after me? Stephen froze. The silence was deafening. Tom nodded slowly. You did. You brought me here knowing exactly what you were going to do. You told your writers to dig for dirt, to frame your questions to make me defensive. This was never about conversation. It was premeditated. That's how we prepare for every guest, the producer interjected nervously. No, Tom said sharply, his eyes blazing. That's how you prepare for political opponents, for targets, not for artists coming to talk about their work. I'm not a politician. I'm not your punching bag. I came here in good faith, and you decided to make me your next viral spectacle. Stephen crossed his arms, but his eyes darted away. We treat all our guests the same, he muttered. Tom took a step closer, his voice quiet but cutting. That's a lie, and you know it.